Hi there and welcome to the latest edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans, for fans, and where the content is absolutely free. It's another preview show for you tonight, guys. We're going to have a look at the Annan game tomorrow, Scottish Cup. Away 5:30 kickoff on Premier Sport, the most inappropriate named sports channel of all time. As I say to you every week, guys, it's not just the pod that we do here. There's loads of stuff on the website. There's the forums, articles, all that kind of stuff. Frankie's social media. There's a history archive on the website as well, so get yourself onto that. As I say to you every week as well, guys, if you can put the word out there that we're here, promote the pod, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got over 5,000 subscribers now, so we would like some more if possible. So put the word out there on social media. We've got a new guest tonight. We've done some business in the January window, and we've got a loan deal from the guys at This Is Ibrox. I don't know whether there's an option to buy or anything like that in that. I'm not entirely sure. Or whether he's fit at the moment, a bit like Ramsey. I don't know if Scott's fit to play. He'll maybe only give us 15 minutes tonight and then come back next week. I don't know. But it's Scott Patterson. How are you, Scott?
I'm very well, Colin. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Delighted to be here. Probably not as fit as I'd like to be perfectly honest with you. But looking forward to the next hour or so. An hour? Oh, Friday. Oh, you'll be pushing it, mate. My Chinese is coming in 25 minutes. Right, before I get started, right, we'll have a wee look at the Hibs game on Wednesday, go over that again, and obviously look at the game tomorrow against Annan, which brings back memories. That's why I've got the 2012 shot there. I just thought it's a great top, isn't it?
It's just a shame it was in such a shite time of our history. Before I go on, I need to mention our partners at Zenith Coins. They're doing a limited edition at the moment, a limited edition range. There's only 1,872 of these sets worldwide. So very historic, and it's around the club's 150th anniversary. So the 5 sort of points of this collection is the Founding Fathers, Ibrox Stadium, the Cup Winners' Cup win in 72, 9 in a row and 55 league titles. They're released in small batches. There's so many being released at the moment, and there's more to come. If you want to find out more about that, visit www.zenithcoins.com. Okay, right, on to business then, Scott. So I'll have a wee look at Wednesday night's performance, and I think it's fair to say after Sunday, after we dumped Hearts 5-0, a sort of return to form after the horror show against Celtic, obviously. I would have to say, some people I've spoken to have felt that Wednesday's performance was better than the performance against Hearts. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was certainly more of the same. Thoroughly deserved win, thoroughly convincing performance.
Yeah, I think the thing about the match on Wednesday, it had a little bit less of maybe the pizzazz that the Sunday afternoon had. One thing I think the overarching feeling as a supporter, I think, is the fact that after the match at Celtic Park, the one thing the support was absolutely crying out for was a reaction. So show that Wednesday night really, really hurt you guys as much as it hurt us. And I think what we've seen with the Hearts game and the Hibs game on Wednesday, 7-0 aggregate. So we've beat Edinburgh, as far as I'm concerned.
Which is always nice.
Which is always nice, absolutely.
Frankie won't agree. Frankie's in the background on the production. He's fair that
he's
way.
He's definitely not coming back. But I think that the overarching thing for me is that we've seen that there's a recovery there. They've got over the shock of the night at Celtic Park, and they have they've started to pick themselves up and pull the pieces back together a little bit.
Yeah, in terms of the score, it wasn't as convincing, but in terms of the performance, I would say it was certainly as equal as convincing. The man of the moment, though, there's no doubt about it. It's Alfie. Another goal, a great goal, good move, fantastic pass from Tav. We'll come on and speak about him in a minute. But I would argue that there is a case to say he's in the form of his life in terms of his career at Ibrox at the moment. His link-up play, his mobility, he looks trimmer, he looks hungry, and he's scoring all the time. You're expecting him. You're going into games expecting him to score.
I think the one thing that you've kind of picked up that I agree is he's leaner. He looks a lot fitter. The sort of Giovanni regime seems to have knocked about 1.5 stone off of him. He's playing out his skin just now. I think the only other time that I could maybe say that he was maybe playing better, Colin, indeed, maybe couple of years ago when we were in the Europa League and we were progressing there, and he scored the two headers in Feyenoord.
That was a night.
Form of his life back then. I would say he's on the verge of bettering that. Back then he was kind of linked with teams left, right, and centre, and there was almost an expectancy when he was playing. He was going to play that little better, particularly in the European games. However, now there's no one really sniffing around him. So what we're seeing is an Alfredo Morelos that is purposely trying to make himself better. No one can come and sign him just now. So his performances are very much, I think, down to new regime. Maybe some work that he's doing with Roy Mackay in the background that we're not seeing, but as a support, as a club, we're certainly seeing the benefit of him.
Yeah, the Roy Mackay thing's interesting because me and my mate were talking about this today. Actually, he sort of messaged me, sort of saying, what do you think's the difference between Morelos now and under Gerrard? Because he had, don't get me wrong, he was still scoring and he was still an important player, but there was no doubt that his performance levels had dropped and his waistline had certainly expanded.
Yes,
and the sort of the notion that's been sort of passed about is, Gio speaks fluent Spanish. Roy Mackay speaks fluent Spanish. That's the difference. But it was pointed out to me today, and I didn't know this, that Michael Beale apparently speaks fluent Spanish. Aye. So to me, at that point, I was like, well, you would maybe have to look at Roy Mackay as the man that's the difference here. He must be the guy that's got Morelos, kick-started again and firing in all cylinders. Because as we've said, leaner, hungrier, just his link-up play, everything about him now, and it's night and day compared to some of the performances he put in under Gerrard, and certainly night and day from that performance he put in against Hibs in the semi-final, the League Cup. So to me, it is Roy Mackay. Is that how you view it as well?
I think it's got a big part to play in it. I really do. One of the things that I actually saw on Thursday yesterday. He made something like just under 50 successful passes outside the 18-yard box on Wednesday night. So if you remember right, previously we had part of the support were a bit disgruntled because for part of the latter part of the Steven Gerrard regime, he was dropping deep and we were losing the influence that he was doing inside the 18-yard box. Now we're seeing him do both and do both really well. I think it's either 9 and 8 or 8 and 9. Something like that from a goal scoring perspective, and he's doing a lot of handiwork outside the box. He's helping the midfielders. Listen, he's the jewel in the crown as far as I'm concerned. We're obviously going into an important 6 months because he's out of contract next summer, I'm sure it is. So you would like to think that Ross Wilson's speaking to the women with the balloons about trying to keep him around for another couple of years for sure.
Special mention for Tav, I think. He got the penalty, scored. The assist, I've not heard too many people talk about that pass, but it's a great pass.
Different class.
And Morelos, his first touch takes him away from the defender. In a season where he has faced a little bit of criticism, Tav, his numbers are still incredible, and he deserves a lot of praise because he's been with us through all the dark times. He's captained us to the title. He still gets scrutiny and a bit of stick. I'm guilty of giving him a bit of stick sometimes, but his numbers and he just keeps going. He's a consistent performer with the goals and assists.
I think in modern times he's a really phenomenal captain. He's the epitomisation of a modern day fullback. I can remember when I was growing up, and I'm still growing up a little bit. The fullbacks effectively were defenders first and foremost. So you defend. Fullbacks nowadays are encouraged to be get up and go guys up either side. You know what I mean? Improve your assists. You know what I mean? Try and get in with the goal, set pieces, make sure you're involved. And Tavernier does that, and he does it very, very well. I think one thing that we spoke about on this is Ibrox. We've referred to maybe the scar tissue that James Tavernier's went through previously with the doings he took against Celtic under Warburton, Kashina. He's been involved in that, and I think only last season we began to see a James Tavernier believe that. Do you know what I mean? That's very much in the past. We can shelf that because I'm now beginning to get the better of these guys. And I think in modern day times, we're really lucky to have him, a phenomenal captain. And he's someone that you would rely on. He always puts himself there. I mean, if he's a dodgy pass, doesn't hide, he's looking for the pass again, and I think that's a quality that we should expect at the very least in our captain.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about fullbacks had passed. I mean, I grew up with Stuart Monroe and Gary Stevens. Really, that was my two sort of when I first started going to the games. And Gary Stevens chipped in with the odd goal. I'll give him that. Stuart Monroe,
no chance.
You know what I mean? I think I can remember him scoring one at Tannadice. I think that's about it. And when he scored, I think he looked more surprised than anybody else. You know what I mean? Because it just was a done thing. Whereas, as you say now, when you look at, especially under Stevie G, the fullbacks were asked to get forward a lot. And Tav has, whatever he gets asked to do, he does it well. He has his moments and he gets his criticism. Sometimes, it's deserved, but it should always be constructive. And I think he certainly deserves a special mention because that pass the other night there was
phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Right. Scott, on to tomorrow. Annan bringing back some horrible memories of 2012. The game at Ibrox, I was looking at it today. The day, I thought it was sort of earlier on in the season, but it was the 9th of March. It's one of the few times I can count on the fingers on one hand how many times I've left Ibrox early. And that was one of the days when we got beat 2-1 for Annan. We went 2-0 down, and in the second goal, I was just like, I've had enough of this. And it was just, it wasn't just that day. It was everything that had just piled up. And the minute that second goal went in, I was like, I'm done with this. And I went into Glasgow with my mate and went to the Horseshoe Bar to drown my sorrows.
And forgot about it.
And, it's a sort of, when I saw us coming out in the heart with Annan, it was like, oh my God, I remember those days. The fact that we're going there as champions, though, this is me trying to put a sort of positive spin on it. The fact that we're going there as champions, part of me's thinking, what, we should be driving down in that team bus tomorrow with that SPL trophy sitting in the front of the bus going, that's us, we completed the journey. You know what I mean? We were back here, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, whatever it was. We completed the journey, and it does feel. I mean, I know it should be viewed as a sort of fairly routine fixture. We should get through fairly comfortably, but there also is a wee feeling. It's quite a poignant fixture as well because it certainly made me think of the journey that we've been on over the last sort of 10 years.
So listen, I'll tell you something. Before I go into that, I'll tell you one thing. We played the last time we were at Galabank was January 2013. I've got the team that played that afternoon. So we won 3-1 that day. Neil Alexander, Darren Cole at right back, Chris Hegarty and Ross Perry in the centre of defence, Lee Wallace at left back. A midfield three of Kyle Hutton, Ian Black and Robbie Crawford, David Templeton down the left, Andy Little down the right, and Fran Sandaza up top. Jesus. Now the bench that day was Blair Curry. I'm sure the goalkeeper was Blair Curry. I can't remember if it was Blair or Max. It was one or two. Seb Forey.
Aye.
Fraser
he was Brazilian, wasn't he? He was Brazilian. Aye.
French. No, he's French.
Was he French?
Mike Kribari was the Brazilian guy.
He was a Brazilian. Aye.
The second worst Brazilian ever to play in the country. Barry Mackay and Kane Hemmings. So that was the last time we went to Galabank. That was who we took down there, and we won. So do you know what I mean? Great. However, this time we're going down there, an entirely different beast with guys on loan from Juventus and Manchester United. It speaks absolutely to your point that the journey, while it's been testing, you could argue that it's taken longer than we originally intended. However, we go down there as champions, and do you know what I mean? We're renewing some acquaintances when we're down there. I think it's a game we should look forward to. There's a wee bit of romance that we take down there in the Scottish Cup, and listen, it's a plastic pitch, which gives me the fear. I'll be brutally honest with you. And I think we've got a lot of decisions to make as far as team selection is concerned, for guys coming back, for guys needing some match time in their legs. However, we've big games coming up, Colin. So I wonder how important it is just to almost take that risk to give the guys time in their legs so that they could be available for the Dortmund double headers and the games that are coming up thick and fast.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, what you're saying there about looking forward to the fixture, I kind of am, apart from the fact that it's on Premier Sport, because I've lost count how many times I've subscribed and unsubscribed to this mob. Honest to God, and I don't want to do it tomorrow. I'm desperately trying to find a pub locally that's showing it because I'm loath to resubscribe. But there is that, because one thing about being in the lower leagues and that journey that we took, it felt that there was a wee bit more respect from the other clubs than we get in the top tier.
100%.
You know what I mean? And that was and there was also the sort of apart from a few clubs that missed us on the way up, as they were coming down, we were passing them going the way up. There was that sort of, I mean, you look at Queen's Park, for example. I mean, they raked a fortune out of us playing them twice at Hampden. So a lot of the clubs benefited from us going through that journey, and it did, although it was painful, and although if I was faced with the choice, I wouldn't choose to do it. There was some positives out of it. So there is, as much as the memories and some of the names you rhymed off in that team there, just sent shudders through me. But there was also a nice part of it as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I some of the names. I mean, there's some guys that wouldn't get near our B team now. I genuinely believe that. I think some of these guys were played because they were there at the time. Some have went on. Some will still be playing for sure. I think Chris Hegarty, I think, is still playing in the Northern Irish League. But there's guys there that effectively disappeared. Do you know what I mean? Ross Perry disappeared. Yeah. Ian Black, thankfully, disappeared. Robbie Crawford, I'm sure, is plying his trade somewhere in the States now. So all these guys went to have relatively decent careers. However, we're so much better now, and we're in such a better place now. And do you know what I mean? Like it or not, the game tomorrow should be a finale. Anything less, and Gio's got troubles.
Yeah. One sort of funny memory I have of the journey, and it might have been Annan, I can't remember the ground, but me and my mate we were playing away from home. Me and my mate went out to watch the game in a pub somewhere, and Lee Wallace was taking a throw in. And I kid you not, this is true. And the camera was looking down the line, and there was like a wee clubhouse, and behind it, there was a rake of wheelie bins, and the council were emptying the wheelie bins, right? The bin men were there. And I was like to my mate, if that doesn't tell you where Rangers are right now, then nothing does. As Lee Wallace is taking a throw in, the bins are getting emptied in the background. Right, but back to today and the here and now. Some sort of disappointing and bad news today about Yanis Hadji. Now, we knew he was out for a while, but Gio basically confirmed he's not going to be back in time for the start of next season. It looks like sort of September time, October time. And that's really bad news because, I mean, he is someone I think who sort of, he splits supporters. Some like him, some don't. I've always really liked the guy. I think he's a really, really intelligent footballer, hard-working, still a bit raw and needs to sort of learn here and there. But and he was also one I felt that we would maybe get a profit from at some point in the future. Yeah. And obviously something like this knocks that back maybe a year or two. You know what I mean? He's going to have to get back in the team. He's going to have to get fit, back in the team, become established again, and then see what he is.
I think he's someone that I think we'll miss him now between now and the end of the season. I actually wonder if the Aaron Ramsey transfer loan would have happened if Hadji hadn't picked up such a devastating injury, to be perfectly honest with you. We'll miss him. There's no two ways about it. I think he's got the ability that no one else has to sort of drift in for the right-hand side and become a problem playing behind a front man. Whereas anyone that we've maybe got playing down the right-hand side, you're kind of the right wingers to all intents and purposes. You're Scott Wright. So perhaps Aribo could do something similar. His assists last season were excellent. His numbers last year generally were very, very good, but it's disappointing to know that he's going to miss. I mean, you think about it, September, he misses the rest of this season, he misses a full pre-season. You wonder if there's a better chance of seeing a real fit, rearing to go Yanis Hadji until, goodness me, the end of 2022, which is just horrible for him in the first instance. It's terrible. Of course, he's going to miss the Champions League group games, which will be a real pain in the arse, because you want to have him there because he's one of our big players. But I think you're right in what you say as well. He's certainly one of these guys that long-term business model and all that, he's someone that you would make a profit on. Yeah,
it's a shame for him. I hear a lot of people giving him a bit of stick. One of my mates, he started to come around to him, but initially he was like, I just don't get what this guy does. But I think that you made a very good point there. His numbers all stack up. So I think he's one of these players that's very underappreciated. He does things in a very sort of under the radar kind of way. You know what I mean? And it's only when you actually look at his numbers, the assists, the goals, and the sort of impact that he has in games, that you think, no, actually, this guy is contributing. We just don't know it.
Yeah, and in a similar way to Tavernier, in exactly the same manner that he gets stick back and forward. These two guys are guys that you don't actually realise the impact that they have on games and on seasons until they're away playing with someone else.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that Hadji's another one, by the way, that I'm sure is out of contract next summer. So Ross Wilson better get his pencil sharpened, because he's going to be really busy this summer generally, I think. Regardless of whether we win the league or not, there's a big rebuild coming at Ibrox in the summer. And guys like Hadji and, as we previously mentioned, Morelos, they have to be top of that list and getting extensions on there.
On the positive news, it feels like one in, one out, so to speak. So we've lost Hadji for the foreseeable. One coming in tomorrow who's been out for a long time, and Philip Hollander. I mean, I don't think he's in the European squad. I don't think he'll feature against Dortmund, but a big boost for the run-in, you know, because I think he's such a good defender, and positionally he just knows where to be. I get that he's a bit slow, and you know, you don't want him in a sort of a 50-50 in terms of sprinting for the ball with a striker or something like that. But he very, like Davy Weir, he very rarely gets into those situations because he's so clever positionally. Yeah. One fear I do have is one that you've mentioned. I'm looking at tomorrow and knowing the sort of, he was always kind of managed around playing on artificial surfaces. I'm thinking, is tomorrow the best day really to bring him back on a plastic pitch?
So I'll tell you, from a personal perspective, I would like to see him get a run out tomorrow. However, I think I'd feel better bringing him on with maybe 15 minutes or so to go. I don't know if I would fancy playing him the full game, playing him for the start when Annan maybe fancy the Alamo bit and just throw bodies in there. All I'll need is someone to bang into him awkwardly and he's down, he's out for goodness knows how long. I'm a huge fan of Hollander. I actually think he's the best defender we've got. You can see that he has plied his trade for a good couple of seasons prior to coming to Ibrox in Italy. He just has that very relaxed way of going about his job. He's a defender you can trust, Colin. And I think when he plays alongside Goldson, I think they look really good together. There's a balance there that I don't think we see with anyone else. And I'm a big fan of Balogun. However, there's obviously a concern about his reliability over injuries concerned. And Bassey, I like Bassey in there at centre half. However, I think there's a concern over whether he's better at left back or that left-sided centre half. Yeah, Hollander, we need to get him back. I think is clearly the message. Playing 90 minutes on a plastic pitch, playing an hour on a plastic pitch, I'm not sure will be great for him after the injury he's had.
It was such an innocuous injury as well. You know, it was at St Johnstone, wasn't it? You know, just it didn't look that serious, and then we lose him for the best part of 4 months, 5 months, and I must admit I do have a slight bit of the fear when it comes to playing him again tomorrow. I'm sure I saw someone say today that was at the press conference, I think it might have been Derek Clark, saying that Gio had confirmed he was starting. He would start the game, but I've read elsewhere that he'll feature, so I'm not quite sure. I would, like you, I would prefer he featured.
Give him a run out.
The last 20 minutes, hopefully when the game's done. And as you say, he's just coming on to get minutes in the legs.
Who would you start in the back line tomorrow, Colin?
Let me think. It's an interesting one. David Wren messaged me earlier on the day saying, who would you go with tomorrow? I think Sands will get a run out tomorrow. I think Goldson will start as always. I think it could be Borna, Sands, Goldson, Tav. I would have went Nathan Patterson, but obviously he's not here anymore. Yeah.
Or the Polish guy.
Yeah.
I say the Polish guy because I'm not actually nailed the pronunciation of his surname just yet.
I know. That's the worst thing about presenting a pod, by the way. See when we sign boys with bloody Zs and Ws in their name, they're like, I don't know where to go with this.
Listen, I'm with you. I think I would go Tav right back, Goldson, I would play Sands, and I would play... I actually think I would start Barisic at left back tomorrow because his head's gone. I think there's an opportunity for his morale to maybe slowly drift up. We've got big games coming up. We can't be carrying players. We can't be carrying guys that maybe have their heads in other places. And I think there's an opportunity for Barisic's morale to be improved tomorrow. So I would start him at left back tomorrow for sure.
Well, I mean, in the immediate aftermath of that night, I was like, I don't want, because I think Bonner struggled for a while. I think if I'm being honest, I think that sort of situation that happened at Celtic Park that night's been coming with Bonner. I think he was targeted that night. He just didn't look confident. And we've been here before. Ian Duff made a good point on Sunday's show that we've been here before with Borna. You know, he obviously has a confidence player, but because of the nature of the defeat, because of the nature of that third goal, I was like, I'd be quite happy if he didn't play for Rangers again. But you're right, we'll need him at some point. You know what I mean? He's still absolutely here. He's, you know, if Bassey's our first choice left back, then fine, that's how it is. But there's every chance we're going to have to rely on him at some point. So tomorrow is, as you say, a good opportunity to get him in. It's what me and my mate used to do at the Fives when I worked in Cumbernauld. There was a Wednesday game and there was a Friday game. The Wednesday game was good standard. The Friday game was a shitter. And if you were struggling on the Wednesday game with your form, you would go to the Friday game to rattle in a few goals and get the confidence up. You know what I mean? And build your confidence up again and go again on the Wednesday. So yeah, it's, as you say, it's a good opportunity to get him in, get that game a couple of weeks ago out of his system, get him playing again, because you never know. We'll probably need to rely on him at some point in the future. On to the Welshman, on to Aaron Ramsey, another one who I saw him get a bit of stick earlier on this week, actually. I had to laugh at that. He's played 2 15-minute cameos, and some punters are not very happy. I mean, I always felt he would have a slow introduction to his Rangers career. You know, I know there's, you know, we're approaching March and all the rest of it, but still plenty of time, plenty of games for him to have an influence on. Again, talk today in the press conference for Gio that he'll feature at some point. Again, I'm getting a bit of the fear given his injury history and plastic pitches and all that kind of thing. But having said that, I'm desperate to see him just come on and show what he's got.
So I think there's two arguments to this, I think, Colin. I think in the first instance, you clearly don't want him to play, get injured, and then have a setback, because you're only here until May. However, do you want to see Aaron Ramsey play against Dortmund? I think the answer to that is yes. I think we need him in our 11 for the Dortmund game in Germany, because I think he would make a difference. The only reason, or the only way that Ramsey can start, I think, in Germany is if he gets at least an hour under his belt tomorrow afternoon. And it may be painful for everyone, do you know what I mean? But I think he has to start tomorrow. And do you know what I mean? Let's be honest, everyone will be shitting themselves, because if he goes down any challenge, a 50-50, it'll be jump behind the couch stuff. You'll just be hoping that he gets up and he's okay. But you want him to play. I would love to see him. And I think part of me still finds it a wee bit hard to get my head round that we've actually brought in Aaron Ramsey. It seems so little time ago you're watching him on Match of the Day, sort of cutting up for Arsenal in the Premiership down there.
He was doing that when Ross Perry was cutting it up for us, wasn't he? You know what I mean? Probably the best way of putting it.
Absolutely. But no, listen, he's a wonderful talent. We're really lucky to have him, but I think we're now at the stage where we want to see him a wee bit more, and that has to start tomorrow for me. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of just slightly moving off the Annan game and looking towards Dortmund, how are you feeling about that? Because I've been watching... I've not been watching their games, but I've been looking out for the results.
Yep.
And they're not in the best of form at the moment. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, because my biggest fear was when the draw was made that the away leg was first. Yep. You know, when you're thinking, if we have a bad night over there, we're going to the second leg, we're pretty much done. You know what I mean? I want the tie to be wide open coming to Ibrox, so that, you know, you get that big European atmosphere. We could maybe have an impact that way, get behind the players, and you just never know. You get an early goal, and all of a sudden things are wide open again.
Yeah. Now
I'm starting to think we could actually go there and come away with a decent result, because they aren't in the best of form at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, the obvious argument is if someone offers you a 0-0 right now, you absolutely take it, because at home, European game at Ibrox, you fancy your chances against them. I don't think Haaland has been playing of late,
no,
which is clearly huge for them. He's a big deal for them, but that works for us as well, because you wouldn't like to be going into the Dortmund game with Roof as your main guy up front, or Cedric Itten as your main guy up front. So both teams have got talismans up front. We need to hope that we keep our one well and safe and continuing in the form he's in, and they can do as they please as far as I'm concerned. If Haaland isn't fit, I'll be delighted about it. I would love to rock up to Ibrox and see Haaland playing, because he's a global phenomenon. He'll know about Dortmund next season, that's for sure, but to see him at Ibrox would be great. However, I want to see my team win first, and I want to see them put out these big teams in European competition. And I think if we can get a draw across there, we can give them a right good go at Ibrox without question.
It's a double-edged sword with Haaland, isn't it? Because you want to see him. You want to see. I mean, the ideal scenario is beating them with him in the team. Yeah. But if the tie from the home leg is sort of quite well balanced, and we've got a chance, you don't want him in the team. But I want to see him. If you know what I mean. That's what I'm in it for a minute, to see these players.
I think you're desperate to see these big players at Ibrox because you're very aware that may be the only opportunity you get to see them. Yeah. I'll remember Walter Smith speaking about how one of the teams he regretted never facing at Ibrox was Real Madrid.
Yeah,
something about that famous sort of white kit rocking out, and of course we played them in the summer past there. So it's a once in a lifetime thing to see these big players rocking up at Ibrox for 90 minutes. However, if we were to knock out Borussia Dortmund, it's a huge scalp. And we're a good bit off knocking Dortmund out of the Europa League, let's be honest. But I completely agree with you. I think if we can get a result in Germany, the landscape changes a little bit, and I think the favour falls onto our lap, and it's down to what we do at home as opposed to what's happened away from home.
Right, away from the Bundesliga and back to Annan Athletic.
Back to Galabank.
only Scottish football could give you those two ties in the same week. I mean, as we were sort of hinting at alluding to earlier on, there's a good opportunity to give some fringe players a bit of game time tomorrow. I'd expect Roof to start. You know, as you were saying earlier on, Sands, these type of guys, and it's good, as you say, that the run in that. It's obviously going to be nip and tuck this title race. You know what I mean? It's not going to be won on March the 7th as it was last year.
Correct.
It's good to get these boys on it, because as we were saying about Bournemouth, we'll rely on them at some point. They'll need to come in at some point and do a job for us. Yeah,
I mean, I think you're right. It's one of the main reasons that Gio has got such a big squad, and the bodies that moved out in January were almost so minimal. We never really moved out anyone in January. Barker obviously disappeared, but we never moved on anyone. I think based on the fact that, do you know what I mean, we've got big games coming up, and the league even at that point was. I mean, I know we were sort of 5-6 points clear, and now we're looking up the table as opposed to looking down. But there's no doubt that the squad remains as large as it is because of the big games that we have coming up. And perhaps because of maybe potential rotation that Giovanni sees looking ahead in the fixture list. I mean, it was probably surprising to many that guys like Simpson never moved on in January. Don't be surprised if he rocks up at Annan tomorrow in some way, shape or form. So I think that's the reason that he's kept a big squad. Up top, you're looking at guys like Ahmad tomorrow, I think, getting a run out. I would imagine guys like Scott Wright would be in the bench. Etienne would be in the bench as well. Be interesting to see if some of the young guys get a bit of a run out tomorrow. I'd be keen to see Alex Lowry at some point again. Was really, really good when he came off the bench in the Stirling Albion tie, and of course sort of put us on our way to the tie tomorrow. So it would be quite nice to see him at some point tomorrow. And what a moment for him, you know, 6 months ago. Not training with the first team squad. Tomorrow, potentially playing in centre midfield with Aaron Ramsey.
Well, Gio did say that, didn't he? He said in his press conference today, you know, he's taking the established stars, but also taking a few of the young boys.
Yeah.
And it is the Dutch way, isn't it? You know, they are very much, right, if you're good enough, you're getting chucked in to see if you can cope with it. So, and we saw that with Lowry. You know what I mean? That was very much, I mean, I know it came about with Haji's injury. But the fact that he was in the squad at all and sitting on the bench, and the fact when Haji went down, Gio wasn't afraid to say, right, well, son, this is your chance, on you go.
More so when you've got guys
I think we will see some young boys tomorrow.
I mean, what you say is absolutely right. The fact that Gio's sort of called Alex Lowry over and put him on when guys like Lundstrom, who incidentally is in a cracking vein of form, I think, you know, what we have just now, and this speaks to the point about us having such a large squad, Colin, we've got guys that are in really good form just now. Do you drop them for tomorrow? And then their next competitive game after that is in Germany against Borussia Dortmund? Or do you want them to try and maintain the form that they've got? Lundstrom's a classic case in point. Bombed by all accounts. Steven Gerrard signing doesn't really seem to be anywhere near the facade of the top 11 players that Van Bronckhorst was picking. Before you know it, out his skin against Hearts, out his skin against Hibs, and he's got one of these midfield jerseys to his own, you know?
Yeah, we've spoken about Lundstram a few times on the show, and it feels like this is his third rebirth. You know what I mean? Because he's come in and struggled, then he had a few good games, and then everybody wanted him in, and then he's just fell out. So, yeah, it's good to see, but we'll see who's in tomorrow. I think a couple of the younger boys will get a wee run out tomorrow. Final point, Scott, before we wrap up for tonight. I was having a wee look at sort of Annan's form at the moment. Not very good. They're sitting third in League Two at the moment. Their manager, I've got his name here, Peter Murphy.
Peter Murphy, yeah.
Yeah, manager of the month for December, 100% win record. They thumped Celtic Hearts 5-1 on a great run, but January not been so good.
No.
They've struggled this month so far. I mean, even if they were in sort of December's form, you know, you would hope that, and you would think that Rangers have got enough in the tank to make this a comfortable game. Now, we've been here before. You know, the amount of times I've watched Rangers against lower league teams, and it's never quite how you hope it would go. And sometimes it gets a wee bit nervy. They're a wee bit up for it, and we're maybe just like a bit slacker than normal. But even if that is the case, you would think that Rangers would get through fairly comfortably tomorrow. Yeah,
I mean, I think what you're looking for tomorrow in the first instance is the sort of same professionalism that we've seen with the last two games against Hearts and Hibs. The guys that I've took to the pitch have went out and dealt with these games really, really professional, and you would expect them to do exactly the same tomorrow, regardless if it's Annan they're playing or if it's Celtic that are wandering out the tunnel. Listen, I'm a great believer in, for every game you're playing for a medal, and I think it's vitally important that these Rangers players understand what it's like to have medals in their cabinets when they retire. At the moment, some of them have only got one. Some of them maybe don't have any.
Yeah.
So it's a Scottish Cup. There's a chance to get a medal there come May. So, you know, take it seriously. It doesn't matter where they're playing, Division 2, 1, wherever. Just, you know what I mean? Do your job, and it should take care of itself.
Yeah, and we've got such an atrocious record in the Scottish Cup at the moment as well that it's, you know, you want to be in that. I mean, the quarter final draws on Monday. Got to be in there and then take it on to the next stage.
100%. I mean, as I say, there's one trophy's already gone this year, and when you look back to that dreaded day at Hampden when Hibs really gave us a bit of a going over, that was a missed opportunity for these guys. Yeah. They must remember how they felt that Sunday afternoon. They must remember how they felt previous seasons when things haven't went according to plan. You look at St Mirren, when we went to Love Street and the Zungu game. Goodness me, there's an opportunity to get into a final. So they have to see the game tomorrow as another opportunity to add to a medal collection that some of them may not already have. And do you know what I mean? For me, it's all about the professionalism that they show as a group tomorrow. They should take care of Annan quite comfortably.
Yeah, agreed. Hopefully that's the case anyway. Remember, 5:30 on Premier Sports. If you're not going to the game, that is. Right, a big thanks to Scott for his contribution there, for his debut. Very impressive stuff. And he's hosting a week on Sunday. So it looks like the option to buy might have been triggered. I don't know. So he's hosting a week on Sunday. This Sunday, Ross is hosting. He's on with Dougie and Stuart Weir. We were live tonight, guys. We're live on a Friday night, but the show will be available to download and stream on a variety of platforms tomorrow, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, all your usual places. As I said, a big thanks to Scott. And in the meantime, get yourself onto the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. It's easy for me to say. Right, guys, that's me. I'm away from my Chinese now. So until next time, bye for now.